All right, so next up on the show is going to be Mike Marlowe. He's the owner of Veteran Home Inspections and a regular guest on the show. We're going to be talking about lead-based paint testing and risk assessment in this one, which in San Antonio area, we have a lot of homes that are pre-1978, and that's really kind of the threshold, right? So tell us a little bit about who this applies to and why they should get it tested.
So every buyer of a house has the option to go out and get a lead-based paint inspection on pre-1978 houses. So lead paint was banned at the end of 1977. So that's why our target on this is pre-78 houses.
Gotcha.
They banned it in 1978. So that's when we moved to our traditional latex oil-based paints that we still use today.
Right. And thankfully, they haven't found anything to mess us with us.
Yet. Just wait, right?
Not yet.
Yeah, just wait.
So the biggest concerns are the health concerns of lead-based paint. So it gives off lead dust, and then everyone, of course, has heard of paint chips and all of that. The biggest concern is actually the dust that comes off. Young kids crawl on the floor, get the dust on their hands. Where do young kids' hands go? Straight to their mouth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how you can really quickly end up with a lead-poisoned child. It does affect everybody. It affects young kids more, but even adults, lead paint will affect you.
Wow.
So
where do we normally find lead-based paint? Is it outside, inside? Where's it at?
It can be either. It was used outside a lot more and a lot longer, but we still find lead paint inside on houses all the way up to 1977.
Okay.
So it's less likely on the newer houses, but it's not a certainty.
And what was interesting in our conversation is how, like, where you have a door that closes, right? So the door is painted, the trim is painted, and then you have this friction that occurs there.
Right.
I had never thought about that, but there's definitely.
Yep, and that's what really contributes to it. Doors, windows. We see it a lot on stair treads, where you're walking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Baseboards, things like that. That's the really common areas that we find it. But I don't think there's a component in the house that I have not found lead paint on at some point.
So how do you know if you have lead paint in your house?
Well, you need to get it inspected. There's two ways.
Well, the first thing would be is if it's older paint, right? I mean, because it would have to have been there for a while.
Right. We want if everything is if it was after 1978, the chances are very, very low. Yeah. The only exception I would say is if you've got reclaimed wood that you've brought in.
Oh, well, excellent point.
That is a good one.
So,
yeah, very good point. So if your reclaimed wood has paint on it, that's something you should have tested.
Right.
Especially if it's going in the baby's room or something.
If it's going anywhere in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So two ways to test it. We have a piece of equipment called an XRF gun. It literally takes an X-ray of the paint and tells me right then and there if there's lead and how much is the concentration of the lead in that paint. The other way is to take a 2-inch by 2-inch sample of the paint all the way down to whatever it's on, the wood, the drywall, whatever, send it off to a lab and have them analyze it.
Okay. That sounds expensive.
It can get very expensive. For a typical 2,000 square foot house, we'll test 100 to 150 locations in a house.
Great Scott.
With the XRF. Imagine taking 100 plus samples, 2 inches square. Your house would not look good after that.
I don't even pay the postage on that.
Not happening.
Yeah. And a seller is never going to allow you to do that, whereas the XRF is non-destructive.
Yeah.
So we can also test the soil around your house. Like if you have exterior lead-based paint, it will give off dust, and that collects in the soil. We can test the soil to tell you how much lead is in that soil.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. All right, but what about the DIYers that are like, well, you know what? Home Depot probably has one of these kits down there that I can go test themselves.
Save your money and just pull out a quarter and flip it, because that's about the accuracy that you're going to get on those swabs.
Really?
Yeah, we cannot use those for testing. They are not accurate enough, and I wouldn't rely on them.
Okay, so use a professional.
Yes.
All right, so cost-wise, what are we talking about to have you come out and test?
We start at $375.
Okay.
So, and that's for up to 2,000 square feet. And like I said, same-day results, and we can let you know what's going on. We'll let you know where the paint is, where lead-based paint is, and if you do have lead paint, then we can also consult and advise you on how to deal with it, the best way to deal with it, depending on what you have in the house.
So let's get an idea of that. So let's say that you got to remove trim, right? I mean, because you're not going to go through the hassle of that. You just replace the trim, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
So then what happens with that? Does it have to go to the federal EPA office for something, or what? What do you do with it?
You double wrap it in plastic and dispose of it in a landfill that accepts lead paint.
Okay, so I couldn't just put it in my trash.
You shouldn't. No.
Is there a legal issue there?
There are laws dealing with disposal of it.
Okay, so you would be breaking some kind of law, right?
Yeah, probably.
FBI coming to your house.
Just like my driving 110 miles an hour down the toll road.
Exactly.
Nobody does that, Eric.
Nobody.
Yeah, the key is you don't want to, just sand it off, take a paint scraper.
Right, especially not sand it off or scrape it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, you're just going to create dust and
more dust.
Yeah, even more dust.
That's crazy.
So get a professional in there. There are actually professionals that deal with lead paint removal and abatement and all of that. So get someone in and get it taken care of right.
And then call you to test it, right?
Yeah.
So how do they get in touch with you if they want to do that?
Okay, phone number is 210-202-1974. Website is vhillc.com.